Hey, Gen X viewers. It's been a while, hasn't it? Today, I finally want to talk about Bratz again. I know that I promised earlier this year that I would be posting more to promote the Bratz's 20th year anniversary. The last project I did to promote it was ranking the worst to best Bratz movies, article and video. And during that time, amidst work, life and career changes, as well as battling sicknesses, I've been working on that Bratz project I've been telling everyone about. The Bratz Pack Wiki, or fandom page, as it's now called. Like the stubborn sun in Taurus and obsessive moon in Scorpio that I am, I'm still dedicated to it. If you were to go to the website now, it might not seem like I've initiated much. That's because I'm waiting until I gather everything, all of the information I could possibly find on this brand before officially fleshing the place out. Because of my goal of making it a huge database for all Bratz information, it has been costly and time consuming, both of which this poor Black American doesn't have. However, that's only been partially my reason for delaying the process of posting more videos and articles about the Bratz though. I know that if I really felt motivated and compelled, I would have stopped everything I was doing to rush forward with promoting my girls with the passion for fashion. Yet here I am, not feeling that sense of motivation. I purposefully set aside making content so that I wouldn't jump to conclusions about the Bratz's 20th year anniversary, as is so easy for me to do. I told myself that I would wait it out this time and see how I felt about everything. In years prior, I would give commentary on my articles or my videos about the Bratz dolls' comebacks, and so often I felt there was something I was missing. This time I told myself I would wait until I saw most of what was being produced to celebrate the Bratz's long reign in the doll industry before forming a conclusion. And as someone who has been into the Bratz for 21 years, yes, 21 years, I think I've overstated how I discovered Bratz when the website was under construction in the year 2000. Yeah, I've overstated that. I can honestly say that the Bratz's 20th year anniversary has the face of nostalgia, but is really missing the heart, the soul of what the brand really was back then. For me, this has been a very superficial relaunch. And honestly and truthfully, I feel disappointed with the Bratz's 20th anniversary. Now, the great majority of Bratz fans may not agree with me or understand why I'm not geeked up for the Bratz this year. I'm accustomed to being a Bratz fan outsider. If you've been into the brand as long as I have, you've seen the faces of Bratz fans change all the time. They come and go, and there's always a new batch of them, new group. So, but for those interested, I'm going to share what's been bothering me about the Bratz's anniversary. And maybe not just this year, but what's been bothering me since the brief hiatus after the release of the 2018 collector dolls. I felt certain events after that release led to this point. To be quite frank, it is becoming pretty obvious that MGA Entertainment isn't investing in the Bratz brand the way they used to. It's possible they see the brand as risky, since all of the reboots haven't had the same success the brand had in the 2000s. The dolls are pretty controversial, and the brand has been subjected to so much legal trouble in the past. It might not feel worth the risk. There's a possibility also that Bratz or the company is surrounding current legal trouble or will surround future legal trouble if launched. Maybe there's also the fear that it will surround that trouble. And I'll talk more on this a little later. But that might have something to do with why there's not as much investment. Or maybe MGA just can't find the same strong team they had back in the day. I mean, if you look at some of those reviews from job sites such as Indeed and Glassdoor, the designers and other teammates who worked with MGA Woo! The reviews they have left are savage, for lack of a better word. I will really go into this later. However, for now, I can just say the current and former employees don't have many nice things to say about working with the company. The best thing they have said is that they've learned a lot. I compared MGA Entertainment's reviews with some of their competitors, and it's just not the same. But with that in mind, it's possible MGA can't find a strong, solid team for the brand, because a brand, it consists of a team, right? To make it happen, the teamwork makes the dream work. You need designers, you need marketers, you need developers, producers, and sculptors, and all these different people that make up the team. And so I know that with most startup or creative businesses like this one, it's not quite a startup. Well, it kind of is, but like creative businesses like this one, the turnover rates tend to be high. Okay, but in comparison to other doll companies, MGA's reviews were nasty. The company has been through ups and downs, so maybe that plays a role in why the company has been like a revolving door the last couple of years. I don't really work for the company to speak on its character. However, I do know that this maybe gives some clues as to why they can't seem to find a solid team to help relaunch the Bratz brand properly. And it doesn't help that the doll industry isn't as strong as it was back in the day, and that the tween market has largely been demolished. Companies have given up on appealing to tweens, even in television. Like, honestly, I heard Disney Channel is folding and moving online. The UK's Disney Channel already shut down for good. There's a very good video floating around YouTube on the subject of the end of the tween era, and there's another good one focusing on Disney Channel's demise. The tween market was once a very good market back in the day because it made content both innocent and youthful, but also something adults could get away with kind of liking as well. Because it wasn't so childish, but it also wasn't so old acting that it was depressing. So tween content was very popular, but nowadays content is usually for young children, teenagers, and or young adults, or older adults. Parents don't feel that tween content is passable anymore. And honestly, tweens are actually now often watching more young adult content now anyway. And it's like what they're watching on TikTok. So, but still, MGA could try harder to appeal to their current demographic, millennials and Gen Z, in a more powerful way than they have in the last 10 years if they really backed up and really dove deep into what made the brand so successful in the past, as they've been promising they would for the last decade. Remember this statement from 2014? So here's the deal with Bratz. We finally got the go-ahead to give it the time and backing to make it awesome. We want to really dig into the direction of Bratz, what makes the brand awesome, and bring that back full force. In order to do that and to have the epic comeback that the brand really deserves, we're taking a year off. We're giving ourselves and the buyers a chance to cleanse palettes of expectations so we can come back in 2015 and deliver something cutting edge, disruptive, and awesome. It's like they're almost there every time. In 2010, 2015, 2018, 2021, but seem to be missing something every time as well. The reason they keep meeting a brick wall is because they really need to invest time and money into rebuilding this brand from every angle. And it doesn't feel like they are willing to do that. They may not have the time or resources. MGA Entertainment seems more focused on their newer, more immediately profitable products, such as LOL Surprise and Rainbow High. And I really don't blame them, especially post-Pan. Okay? Still, it's obvious the Bratz isn't their focus anymore. They may have some people fooled, but I can see it. There are many signs that the company isn't really invested in Bratz anymore. And it's pretty clear the 20th anniversary was thrown together as a result. I'm just saying. So let me just run down how I could tell they aren't investing anymore. There are too many issues with the dolls. First off, the 20th year's anniversary was off to a rocky start when they asked fans what dolls we wanted to be re-released this year. Okay, when did they ask that question? November 2020. That means they hadn't been planning this launch for very long at all. It didn't become a thought until the end of last year. Honestly, this launch should have been planned shortly after the 2018 collector dolls were released because fans were asking for 20th anniversary releases since then. They should not have waited until the end of last year to focus on resetting the Bratz brand for 2021. Normally, a solid release at least takes a year, even 2 years to prepare for. For every doll brand that I've studied, a solid launch and relaunch has normally taken 2 years of development. For all of you who've worked with a doll team, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I know I've had several developers and creators comment, so I would love your input regarding this. This is just from my little observations, but if you're more of an expert, let me know. Maybe some companies do it within 6 months' time. But from what I know, a strong launch takes time. And this is especially the case when a brand has been stagnant for years and is relaunching as if this is their debut. MGA Entertainment isn't treating this like a serious relaunch if they ask fans no more than 6 months before the anniversary what lines they want relaunched. And so it's no surprise that when the first edition 20 Years Dolls first launched at Hot Topic in May with only a few weeks notice, they appeared a little wonky with quality control issues. And they also sold out within an hour, which to me means they didn't prepare for the dolls to be so high in demand. We had Mar the Cantos, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. But we had Mar the Cantos, who is now the confirmed social media content creator, which I suspected since last year, scrambling to reassure people that the dolls were mass produced and were going to be launched more widely soon. The dolls were eventually released more widely and appeared on toy shelves at Walmart and Target, but they still had the same quality control issues and sold out too quickly in many areas with few replacements on the shelves. Some people simply couldn't find them at their local Walmart and Target at all. And I'll talk more about my theories as to why later in this content. The truth is, Walmart and Target are stores that cater to moms, and the vast majority of moms don't like Bratz that much. As I've said in my What Happened to the Bratz video with all the evidence. So some Walmarts and Targets haven't approved of having the dolls on their shelves. And that's partially why some of y'all can't find them. Because nobody in your neighborhood wants Bratz there. Okay? And even worse is no one stopped to think that maybe Walmart and Target don't exist around the world. So if an individual lives in a different country or in a location that doesn't have these stores, they'd still have to buy them online. Like they would have had to for the collector's exclusive dolls. And honestly, the whole point of fans asking for the dolls to be in stores was so they could see them on shelves, so they wouldn't have to use banking info to buy them, wouldn't have to convert coinage from a different country, wouldn't have to pay delivery fees along with expensive ass dolls, wouldn't have to crack a code to get into an American website if their country doesn't allow them to get in. And so those under the age of 18 who may not have like debit or credit cards, though I know some banks in the United States are now offering underage debit cards, but for those who are 18 and don't have that, being at a store would give them access to the dolls. While I know the pan crisis that's been happening has basically placed everything online, many people still aren't comfortable with online shopping, okay? Some people don't like buying everything online. Some people want to see these dolls on their own shelves where they can pay in person, possibly with cash. Apparently, this was not a planned worldwide launch where people in their own parts of the world could find the dolls sitting comfortably at their own local stores. If the company was really invested, they would have made sure they were prepared for a worldwide launch. There's another interesting video out on YouTube going into detail on how MGA used to prepare for worldwide launches back in the past. And that video is called Living in the Bratz World, the International Distribution of MGA's Bratz Dolls. Honestly, I don't know any company that only launches stateside when they have a globally popular brand. I mean, maybe the current crisis has changed things, but I haven't seen that from many companies. Most companies have done an international release when they have a global fan base. So if MGA was still interested in really investing, not only would they have made sure these releases were worldwide, but they should have also had some brand new collector dolls ready for launch shortly after the first edition Bratz dolls relaunched. Some MGA customer care workers supposedly stated that the new collector dolls are supposed to be released August 2021 along with the first edition dolls. Well, the first edition dolls released in May, and we are now in October. What happened to the collector dolls that was supposed to come out? Yes, we all know the pan has pushed everything back and changed things around, including the production of products. However, if they've been planning this since 2019, the pan should not have been an excuse. Within the time frame of the lockdown in 2020, MGA managed to launch sister brand Rainbow High solidly. The pan didn't prevent that launch from being pretty solid. It should not have prevented a solid Bratz launch either. They should have had a solid team ready for this launch, especially because they had quite a bit of time to plan for it. Yet, all the confirmations we've gotten from social media, customer care workers, and listings have all been conflicting. It seems like we aren't receiving definite answers about releases. Unfortunately, I feel like everything that was planned for this 20th year's anniversary was either rushed or scrapped. Last I heard, MGA had a Pride Collector doll and Holiday Felicia listed. Initially, was supposed to be Holiday Trinity. Okay. I'm excited to have a Pride doll, especially since, as y'all know, I'm queer myself. I'm also happy to have more Felicia as a black person, especially as a holiday edition, since no dark-skinned dolls really had that on them before. However, due to the poor quality of the first edition reproduced dolls, I'm afraid of how Felicia will look. I'm even more afraid that she'll just arrive in Trinity's old outfit instead of having a one-of-a-kind holiday dress designed for her. Because honestly, a few months ago, the listing stated Trinity was being released. Now, shortly before she's supposed to arrive, it's been changed to Felicia. To me, that's suspect. It's suspect. It just seems like when Felicia arrives, she'll come in Trinity's pink dress. And it'll just be like, okay, this is the black version. Like, she's not going to have her own individual, beautiful gown that's going to compel me to want to buy Felicia. What nearly confirms my fears is the Rock Angels re-release. Rock Angels has it relaunched? Is it relaunching? Girl, I think it's relaunched, and it appears they will be suffering from the same quality control issues the first edition dolls had. When I first saw the leaks, Roxy and Sasha didn't look too good. And I'm very happy. I already have my old dolls. I feel sorry for all of y'all who are getting what's new. Maybe it's too soon to ask for collector dolls. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I want the new dolls to look the way they've been looking. With the strange eye coordination and the plastic skin that looks too oiled down with Vaseline, I just can't get with it. I can't get with it. Beyond the look of the dolls is the problem that we fans are mostly getting re-releases in the first place. I feel like the re-releases only offer something to new fans or fans who were not able to purchase Bratz dolls in the past. Unfortunately, these new dolls don't offer anything to old-time fans. Why would I buy 20 years anniversary dolls when I have the old dolls? Even if these dolls did look as good as the originals, what would they offer old-timers? I guess I really shouldn't have much to say, because considering the first edition dolls did sell out, so maybe many fans wanted these re-releases. Maybe that's what y'all wanted. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know if the dolls sold out because of the new fans or old fans, but MGA follows the money, so whoever's buying it is who they're catered to. I'm probably alone in the pool. But the only way I can visualize an old fan like me buying these dolls is if I conclude that there are some old time fans that have to have every Bratz item ever invented in their collection, the good, bad, and ugly. And I mean, I've come to develop this mindset myself, so I understand it. Some of my viewers have helped, to open my mind about certain dolls, like the 2015 dolls, for example, which I wasn't initially a fan of. And I admit I'm a skeptic and I can be stubborn. My Mercury in Taurus is very rooted. I also have Saturn in the third house, which doesn't help. But like with me, maybe some old time fans don't mind having two versions of the same doll, just to have a bit of Bratz history and to have every single doll in their collection. But me, I personally would rather have something new. The other old timers might buy them just to do videos on YouTube about them. I'm not beyond that either. When and if I get some more money. But I'm broke. I'm not that rich. Broke as spoke with no hope, okay? But beyond that, what other value do these re-release dolls really bring to a collector? Like I felt that if they wanted to re-release the dolls for older fans, they should have included something new, something that would get us excited for the re-releases. Instead, they gave us the same old thing, but with wonky screenings, a wonky face. I don't really make a whole lot of money to be throwing it out to just any old dolls. I love doll collecting, but as y'all can see, those who follow me on YouTube and visit me on my blog, I am interested in some very high quality and expensive doll brands. In my case, if I had to decide between a 20 years anniversary reproduced doll and an older doll collection on eBay, I'd be saving up for the latter. Okay, I'd rather invest in finding the older releases than in investing in MGA's newer Bratz re-releases right now. Unless they give me a really good reason to buy these dolls, I don't even feel compelled to prioritize it. I mean, if you don't want to pay that extra money on like eBay or Amazon, because a lot of the older Bratz are going for a hefty price, then yeah, maybe you will like, well, these dolls are going to be cheaper, so I'll buy these re-releases. But because they are cheaper, I would say you get what you pay for, because they look cheap too. They look like knockoffs. Okay? So if we compare Bratz to their competitor, Barbie, for example, her dolls have been released with the same amount of quality it has had for 10 years. Okay, she hasn't improved, but she hasn't worsened either. And in some ways, the design is better. The sculpts are more detailed. Barbie has more body types than ever before. And with each release, at least it's clear when the dolls will launch. And when they happen on time. Many of you might be wondering why I'm comparing Bratz to Barbie. Do you know the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? If you want to see where a brand stands, you can compare them to other dolls on the market to see where this brand can improve on their level or even past them. When Barbie releases an old collector doll, it's a doll that has been in the archives for 30 to 40 years. And oftentimes the dolls are re-released with something extra special for old-time fans who have the dolls, or they are usually so rare no major current fans have them. Right now, on this level, Bratz isn't leveling up past Barbie. Okay? Her collector dolls tend to be the most detailed, flamboyant dolls you've ever seen in comparison to her main play lines. Okay? So they make sure to do it up for the adult collectors. Bratz is not delivering that department, and that is what really, really disappoints me. So the next thing I want to talk about is the promotional media. The promotional media is messy, rushed, and not updated in unison. Okay? Other signs that MGA Entertainment is not investing in the Bratz brand are seen through how they are handling Bratz through their promotional media. Let's compare this launch with Hayden Williams' 2018 Collector Dolls launch. Say what you will about his dolls, they might not have been everybody's taste, and yes, there were quality control issues with that launch too, but mostly everything was well prepared for the release, especially the promotional media. First off, the website. When Hayden Williams' dolls launched, the website was updated to include his dolls, the characters' bios, and even sources showing where to find and buy the dolls. It was a centralized location for all the latest Bratz information, even allowing fans to find all the social media websites connected with Bratz. Second, every single form of social media was on the same level of promotion. They were all information. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube all had posts promoting the launch. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook all had the same posts as one another. YouTube had a video to promote the launch. Third, they didn't rush into a series before building the brand back up. If you follow me, you know how I felt about the original series, despite the fact so many fans seem to be in love with that damn thing. If you want to know directly how I feel, please investigate ranking worst to best Bratz movies from a huge Bratz fan's perspective. In-depth analysis. Investigate that video. Because I talk about the movies and the series, TV series especially, simultaneously, especially Rock Angels, because I feel that the series and Rock Angels are connected. So I give my critique in that video about that. So anyway, the only thing that held the Hayden Williams 2018 collector dolls launch back was the dolls themselves, and that's pretty crucial considering Bratz is primarily a doll brand, not a television series, though some fans tend to think that's the heart of this brand. For me, his dolls weren't that bad, but I admit that a lot of people didn't like the style, and there were issues with quality control even then, among other things. But let's just compare then to now, shall we? While in recent times, the Bratz seem to be superficially paying homage to the old days, why does the website still say coming soon? If MGA Entertainment was really invested in this launch, wouldn't they have prepared an official website? And before anybody tells me, and no one goes to websites anymore anyway, consider the fact that they didn't hesitate to launch a Rainbow High website when they were released last year. Notice how they still update LOL Surprise. Websites still have use when it comes to centering all Bratz products, information, and social media connections in one location. It's still an extra extension of promotion. A main website can have shop information showing where or what stores people can find the dolls, especially online for each country. At minimum, it would have been a great way to pay homage to the 2K era to really play up that nostalgia for the, 20th anniversary. It was a missed opportunity, for sure. Now, they did try to organize all of the releases with a tree on Instagram, and they managed to put together a Rock Angels website. For those of you who bought those ugly ass new dolls, use the QR codes and found the website. But that's just on Instagram, and if you are interested in one release from the new reproduced Bratz Rock Angels line. Okay? Again, what I'm finding when it comes to social media and their websites is, this time around, they are not all information. Twitter posts certain things that you won't find on Instagram. Instagram posts has things you won't find on TikTok. TikTok has things you won't find on Facebook. I don't even know the last time there was anything posted to Facebook and YouTube, really. I've literally run into fans on TikTok who didn't even know Bratz had an Instagram. Fans on Twitter who didn't even know Bratz had a TikTok. Fans on YouTube who didn't know Bratz had a Twitter. And they all had different stories when it came to what they knew about the Bratz's so-called comeback. I've discovered that the people with TikTok knew little about the posts found on Instagram. I mentioned an Instagram post about Nevra to someone on TikTok, and they stated, that never happened on TikTok, so I don't know about it. Someone who watches YouTube, maybe specifically my YouTube channel, has stated they couldn't find any new releases from Bratz and were asking me where I heard this information. Some of them tried to go to the main website, but it looked like this. The bulk of Bratz promotion and content is coming from Instagram, which everyone doesn't have access to nor likes to use. Even on Instagram, they have delayed posting updates on products, with many fans finding out about releases from retailers themselves or off-brand fan sites that find leaks. Bratz Rock Angels was said by Walmart and Target to have released October 11, 2021. Did any of you all see any posts about it? Because I haven't. None of the social media pages have updated any information prior to the release of this long asked for line. Maybe because they saw how the fans were reacting to the leaks. Yeah. Still, there should be some sort of information about these dolls, especially if retailers are telling people about it. Fans are now running around like chickens with their heads cut off trying to figure out what's happening. And all of this could have been resolved by leading them to one simple central website. We need a free website that doesn't require a sign in and is accessible to people of all ages, countries, and backgrounds. The website should be listing all of the available products coming out of MGA Entertainment at this time. But that didn't happen for this 20th anniversary. I know the year isn't over yet, but we have 2 more months to go. Technically less, which still means they didn't invest in this launch very much at all. Now, Bratz did get a little series on TikTok for promotion. I want to talk about Talking Bratz. Someone from my YouTube channel did ask me what I thought about the Bratz series Talking Bratz. I will now give my thoughts on it. First, on a positive note, I want to say that I believe Talking Bratz has the potential to be better than the original series. As I've stated, I'm not a fan of the original series, and I've stated why several times in Bratz 2018. Please don't. And I've stated it in ranking worst to best Bratz movies. I've been in the Bratz far too long and know the brand and characters too well to enjoy the TV series fully, especially because I was a bit older than the target demographic when the series launched. So, no. Talking Bratz fixed 2 major things: Dylan and Felicia. As most hardcore Bratz fans know, Dylan was heavily black-coded as early as 2004. He wore box braids in many of his earlier releases, such as in Wildlife Safari and Wintertime Wonderland. He was darkened in many of his illustrations to fit his heritage more, such as in the book Extreme Outdoors, and some of his dolls followed suit, such as Play Sports Dylan and his kid's doll. But typically, everyone saw him as a light-skinned black male, which was not common and still isn't common to find in doll brands. Most black males are dark skinned in doll brands. They hardly ever make light skinned black males. But Dylan was coded black, even though he was light skinned. Yet for some reason, the original Bratz TV series, Rock Angels, and that live action movie decided to whitewash him. And I talked about this and went in on it already. Whatever. But whoever is in charge of Talking Bratz seems very aware of this, took notice, and updated accordingly, which means someone is doing a bit of research over there. Thank goodness for that. They've also given some of the lesser known Bratz Pack members, particularly Felicia, screen time, which I feel is very exciting and could really serve to boost all of the main Bratz Pack characters in the future if they plan on giving all of them a chance to shine, you know? I like that they attempted to bring back some of the old cast, which obviously connects with the fans of the series. To me, this means they're trying to unite the universes, fixing what was wrong with the original series and bringing back what was right. Despite this, though, considering the people who are being put in charge of the brand and considering the way things are being promoted lately, I'm not sure just how deep the developers, animators, and writers are willing to go into the brand to really create the ideal TV series that I'm looking for. My standards are yay high. Okay? Yay high. And I've been working on writing a series for Bratz myself. I'm still working on it. Because as someone who is passionate about the brand and as someone who sees its potential, I would never just launch a series flimsily. To me, I feel like Talking Bratz was launched a bit too soon and carelessly. This fandom wiki project that I'm working on regarding the Bratz has done more than help me build a one-stop database. It's also helping me understand the brand in and out. I'm learning about the characters, their universes, their lives, what the fans enjoyed about the different series, movies, and books, what they didn't, what I enjoyed, what I didn't, the dolls, the fashion, everything. I'm analyzing everything. That's the kind of dedication I want to see from a TV series developer and producer. I just don't know if they really are that dedicated right now. It's too early to tell. And even if they were to get that dedicated, there's so many, I wouldn't say pseudo fans, but so many like fans who only know the series that if someone were to go deeper, it would lose those fans. They'd be like, I don't remember this from the series, even though it was in a book and a magazine and other media that they're not aware of. So I just don't know if it'd be possible for them to take it to that level. You know, my own work may never get greenlit, read, or fully visualized, but I still want to write it because I believe there needs to be a stronger universe for the Bratz brand. Like, I like that I get to take my time with it and really do the homework. If I make a film or series, I want it to be a production that truly leans into the brand, like what I've seen from the directors and producers who made Harry Potter. I want it to be almost like the original source material. Unfortunately, in Bratz's case, they have many source materials, even sources some fans may not have even heard of. So, there's that. What really disappointed me already, though, about Talking Bratz was the fact that Jade and Sasha's segments were scrapped. I was very disappointed. I've talked about the Clothesman issue before in my Bratz 2018 Please Don't content. I don't want to see Yasmin and Chloe getting all the shine while Jade and Sasha get sidelined again. Yet this is what is happening again. And we were not given any real reason as to why this happened. But again, if MGA was really invested in this comeback, they would have had this series prepared way before this year, just like Rainbow High's series was prepared. Nothing would have had to be scrapped. MGA must have forgotten why the 2010 10th anniversary dolls failed. Those dolls also failed because MGA admittedly rushed to put the dolls on the shelves, which created issues with quality. It caused them to go on a hiatus. Why haven't they learned from that? I don't think they anticipated the demand would be so high for the Bratz right now. If they were really interested in investing in Bratz, they wouldn't have waited for people to be interested. They would have been strategizing to get people interested, making moves before the demand swarmed in. They would have been analyzing how fans were responding to the brand over the years and would have taken notes on what fans were looking for and expecting. They shouldn't have just looked in social media either. There are fan communities all over that have specified and stated what they wanted, you know. And there are kids, I don't know, they're not directing it to kids, but like they should have had consultants, face-to-face consultants, because people that they consulted with, face-to-face demographics that they tested the dolls with. They should have looked to many different avenues and areas to see how fans would respond to these dolls, okay? Instead, they put little effort towards the brand over the last couple of years and only rushed to invest when they saw the success of the first edition 20 years re-release, which was a surprise to me, considering how wonky they look. But okay, that's what y'all wanted to buy, so I can't judge what you do with your money, okay? Of course, we are in a different time and era. No brands can really be as successful as they were in the 2000s before internet and social media popped off. You know, there's just so much that can catch our attention nowadays. And especially with children. But then again, they're not directing it to children. But if they were, there's a lot that can appease children nowadays. But if the brand was strategic, they could have managed to maintain a loyal fan base and could have gained way more new followers at the very least. If you compare them to their competitor Barbie, though her sales have declined, she's managed to maintain a loyal fan base and has kept her hold on the fashion doll market for over 50 years. On all of Barbie's socials, she has managed to maintain millions of followers. The only place Barbie is emptier than Bratz is on TikTok, and this is only because she don't have any content yet. And yet, she still has 100 followers, a few hundred followers, and tons of TikTok fans that hold her name. Those same people having millions of followers. So all of this without dropping content. How? Barbie never forgets her hedgehog concept. Review Jim Collins' business book, Good to Great, while some companies make the leap and others don't, to learn more about that concept. Barbie tries to keep up with what's new while never losing what Barbie is. The fact is, the company actually dove deep to find out who Barbie has been and who she is now. They found a way to merge all of her universes too, through Barbie and the Dream House, or at least they're trying. I've seen some guest appearances of her old friends from her early days on there. So, anyway, I mentioned this before. Everybody knows that Barbie's world will always be centered around her. She's white, blonde, middle to upper class, pretty, and forever young, technically. She's been developed to become anything to anybody. Yet, she's found a way to maintain one solid identity no matter how much she evolves. In order to meet the demand for diversity, instead of changing who she is, they just added that diversity to her universe. Since 2016, she's added newer skin tones, gender expressions, and body types to her universe. The company knows Barbie herself can never be everything to everybody, believe it or not, and they aren't trying to make her that. They've tried that several times in the past, and it failed. It would never work because of Barbie's reputation. Barbie is Barbie now. What they decided to work with in the present, though, is working in Barbie's favor, even if it's silently behind the scenes, focused on her surrounding brands instead of her. Nowadays, most people have little negative to say about the brand. I mean, it certainly isn't worse than what critics are saying of Bratz. While meeting customer demand and maintaining Barbie's identity, she's able to make enough money to have new lines and new movies every year. It's now a tradition to watch a Barbie movie for many generations of Barbie fans. Like I said, MGA should keep their enemies closer. Barbie isn't my enemy, but she's Bratz's number one rival. If they expect to get back on top, they should observe how she's managed to last this long. But that would only be if MGA is even still interested in Bratz like that anymore, which it clearly appears they're not. MGA's official company website doesn't even include Bratz as one of their featured brands anymore, and it is listed at the very bottom among all of their brands towards the bottom of the page. Finally, I believe another thing that I'm noticing is that fans are investing in Bratz more than the company. To be honest, the main one really adding to the universe and building the brand is Mar the Cantos, the social media content creator. Mar the Cantos started off as a fan photographer. I believe she was a designer in New York. She hated it there, and when she returned back home, she found her doll collection and decided to post pictures of them. Well, from those photos, Mar helped the Bratz go viral back around 2017 to 2019. A few years later, Mar the Cantos was brought on to be the primary social media content creator. Mar the Cantos has been primarily responsible for all the photos we see on social media, from the Roxy and Never Coming Out photos to the celebrity photos we constantly see on social media to the little throwbacks here and there from video games and commercials. Mar the Cantos is even the one highlighting other Bratz community fan photos from like House of Plastics and Monster LOL, among others. Basically, she's been the one posting all the photos, and they're basically fan photos, like fan fiction. Okay. An article titled "A Brief Investigation into the Complicated History of Bratz" has stated that Jasmine Larian, who seems to be working with the brand more lately, has prioritized collaborating with Bratz community leaders and digital creators. That's what and who is driving the brand now. Really, mostly fans. From my experience, fans have always had a certain power over the Bratz brand. It's both a blessing and a curse. Back in 2003, I felt this fan power when they used to make the official MGA business email accessible to us. I used the email address a lot. In fact, I was one of the earlier fans who asked for Bratz to have a worldwide release for the music album, since at the time they only had Show Me What You Got, which was only released in Japan and was hard to access online. 2 years later came Bratz Rock Angels. So back during the 10th anniversary and 2015 doll releases, other Bratz community leaders like Barry Bread and Alex B were brought on to promote the Bratz brand. Alex B was around since the early days of the Yahoo fan group, Bratz World. I do remember when Alex first joined, back when Snowflake BB was the admin. However, I believe Alex really started to have more influence after connecting with MJ more intimately in the 2010s, possibly through a working relationship, from what I hear. I've heard Hayden Williams was a big part of the Bratz community since 2001 too, before being brought on to design his own dolls. He was recognized in one of the earlier editions of Bratz magazine as well. So MGA is a company that has utilized the power of the fans to drive their brand and all of their brands, and it does wonders in their favor. It's partially what makes the Bratz community so exciting. We all feel a part of this brand, like we're all designers and developers right alongside those actually working at the main office. However, it seems that the fans are the ones really putting in all the time, effort, and money to keep the brand afloat nowadays. Even more so than in the past, where fans would be invited maybe as consultants or interns within the company to work alongside the full-time hired on employees. Right now, it feels like the social media, the merchandise, promotion, websites, videos, the fans are the ones making it happen now, not really official employees. And it shows. Most of the releases for the anniversary have been collaborations supported by outsiders. From Makeup Revolution to No Name Mexico, this year they have relied on others to support the continuation of Bratz. Now, I really loved No Name Mexico's collection out of all of the collaborators. I enjoyed the fashion show immensely and love their style. To me, they're really cutting edge and represent what the Bratz stand for. So I was very impressed. But overall, MGA isn't lifting much of a finger in that direction. Like, maybe they're putting out some funds towards it, but they aren't investing what they used to. To my knowledge, they probably can't and won't, because there are other brands that are a priority within the company. So mostly all the people working on Bratz have been independent contractors, freelance, ambassadors, collaborators, or public relations promoters of some kind. None have been officially signed on as permanent employees. I don't know if Mar the Cantles has, but most have been working independently. This means they aren't getting paid a solid salary with paid benefits from the company. They're putting their own passion and personal talents into the brand. So at any time, they can pull the plug and say they don't want their products associated with this brand anymore. And that would be it. That'd be it. With that being said, with fans driving the brand, it's hard to know what's an official release and what's not, what's canon and what's not, who's in charge and who's not, who has insider knowledge and who doesn't. It has created quite a bit of confusion. And there have been quite a bit of fan photos that people have confused for official releases, especially news outlets that aren't too familiar with the brand. So, for instance, when the Roxy and Never coming out story was posted on Insta, the lesbian news outlet After Ellen thought it was an official launch of new lesbian and bi dolls. And it really was just a viral fan photo that got a lot of attention. However, MGA just let everybody run with that idea. An idea they really had no intention of following through with. And honestly, that's basically how MGA has handled Bratz. They just gave up all the power. The brand is like a runaway train now. They're letting any fans who can sensationalize Bratz do their thing. And while that might not be a bad thing in some cases, it can get bad when the fans have different levels and even different years of investment in the brand. Every Bratz fan is different. There are some Bratz fans that have been into the brand since debut, some fans that have been into the brand since 2005 when the TV show was launched, some fans that have come into the brand in 2010 or 2015, and some fans who became hardcore after the 2018 dolls were released or after Bratz went viral on social media. To quote my siblings, since they put it so eloquently, every Bratz fan has their own lifespan when dealing with this brand. As a result, depending on when the fans got into the Bratz, those fans are going to have different, often conflicting expectations from other fans. Those who have been with Bratz since debut are going to have a certain attachment to the things they fell in love with at debut and may be more averse to changes. Newer fans would be more open to change. If you were there when the brand started, you're going to have different expectations from those who came in with the TV series, and especially from those who are just now getting into the brand hardcore. We're all going to have very different experiences with the Bratz. Trying to appease these different types of fans requires a certain sensitivity, which can't just come from one type of fan. It needs to come from a solid marketing team or a team of fans from all different lifespans. It's not easy, but unfortunately it is necessary even in this largely inconsistent brand. This brand has had several evolutions over the years and it needs to be analyzed and rectified. This will help create lasting power because they can hone in on the things fans will always find familiar about this brand while finding what gets us excited by putting many different minds together. So, I feel like there especially needs to be some board of directors or some team experts that can review what's posted on social media, the source of the Bratz doll's current development. I say this because I've found that some of the Bratz community leaders brought on to support Bratz social media appear to be relatively newer hardcore fans who haven't really invested in the brand for the last 20 years. And so the content they offer appears to conflict with what hardcore fans know about the brand. They, might have had a few Bratz dolls back in the day or like the dolls or whatever, but it's pretty clear that those in the social media team weren't invested in the brand, meaning a part of the communities, analyzing the lines, observing the characters, watching all the movies, reading all the books, etc. In many cases, it's probably not true. I don't know if it's true, but it has appeared that way to fans. Okay. And I first noticed this when a blind date post went up and it listed Dylan's zodiac sign as a Sagittarius. Now, some people might find this to be a little petty post, relatively meaningless. However, fans still had opinions about this post. I saw comments like, "Isn't Dylan a Leo?" And not that saying Dylan is a Sagittarius when there's multiple evidence he's a Leo. I don't know who made this post and who allowed it to get up there like that, but it was not met with the best reception, okay? Again, while the little post might seem meaningless, it's the little post that can make or break people's loyalty to the brand. If long-term fans who know this brand in and out can sense a change in values, management, even in storytelling, it can make them write everything off in the brand as fake or not worthy of any respect anymore. That they would get the feeling that someone doesn't, quote, know what they're doing. People often have these kinds of thoughts worming into their minds, even if they don't say it out loud. Consistent universes allow companies to draw out relatable elements of a story or character to draw in and connect with fans. There's a reason why brands like to create a universe for their dolls. The universes give the dolls identity, and identity sells. If things get too confusing, people tend to lose interest and disconnect. There's no point using promotional media if it isn't consistent with the source or the sources that the majority of fans are familiar with. And this is especially the case if you're trying to tap into nostalgia. Okay? The blind date incident was not the only time the social media post created confusion. I'll talk more on the other confusing posts in the same in the same video later, but for now I would just say that if a company really was invested in this brand, they would encourage all on board to take the time to study the brand thoroughly before launching random posts. Now, I don't want to sound elitist, because I believe there should be room for all kinds of fans, and even new fans give the brand a fresh new perspective. To be honest, brands change and they do evolve. However, when a, quote, community leader is put in charge of building the brand for the future, even if it's just via social media, it becomes obvious when they don't know much about the history of the brand. And it does ultimately isolate older fans. And this can create not only fan tension, but it can also create a loss of respect for those in charge, to add a loss of faith in the brand. This weakens the brand. It feels like those in charge of social media are just posting anything. And I mean anything. Any company that is interested in investing in their own brand would know to be careful what is posted on social media, because they would want to maintain the brand so that the dolls can get sold to the major demographic, normally kids, particularly tweens. But that's not what's been happening with Bratz. So one example of this is many fans were also taken off guard when someone from the social media team reposted the rapper Saweetie flipping her middle finger up in her Bratz robe. This post was posted, I think, last year. Some fans called the social media team out on it, reminding them that they still had younger fans who visited the platform. It was only then that the Bratz social media team responded and said that they wanted to cater Bratz towards their adult fans now, which is apparently their new primary demographic. There was no warning of this beforehand, so it left many fans divided and confused. Some fans loved the openness. They were like, yes, Yes, edgy queens, they're not afraid to be risque or whatever. I don't know. But some fans felt it went too far. In any case, it wasn't carefully thought out, and no one prepared fans for the shift in focus. But it was a sign that Bratz was changing, for better or worse. It was also a sign that MGA had really let loose the reins of this brand. People are also calling the Bratz social media a stan account now, since many posts, especially on Twitter, seem to have nothing to do with the Bratz. Like, there was a recent post about player 067, and most of the comments were like about how unprofessional the account was getting and how desperately MGA needs a new social media team. Like, they were really harsh, but they were just like, do this on your main, not here. Like, people were just like, the people on social media are so cringy. What does this have to do with the Bratz? Like, show us products. Most companies really interested in investing in a brand would stick to photos about their products, like MGA is doing for Rainbow High and LOL Surprise. And Barbie, let's go back to her. Barbie may not get the same traction to each post made on Instagram, but there's a reason she's sitting on 1 million subscribers, while Bratz is barely maintaining 700K. Some people might say if you're a true fan, you should be a fan of everything. I don't believe that's realistic. To be honest, if you fell in love with the brand for some things and they scrap everything that you loved about the brand, it isn't what you loved about it anymore. You can still be a fan of all the old parts of the brand without embracing every new thing that comes out. Newer things might be more difficult to adjust to overall, or more difficult to digest, especially for us older fans. Ultimately, the way Bratz is being handled has kind of made my passion for the brand simmer down a bit. I'm trying to adjust. I really am, but I've had to swim through disappointment. And these points about the direction of the brand brings me to the next few reasons why I'm not really happy with the Bratz's 20th years anniversary, nor even excited for the future of Bratz. I'm going to get deeper into some of these points I've made in the next few parts. As stated before, the social media team has stated themselves that Bratz is now catering to an adult audience. Being an adult, you would think I would be over the moon about my favorite brand growing up with me, but I'm not. I know in the past I stated I hated the kid-friendly Bratz that were released in 2015. And yes, I did at one time think that Bratz should start catering to their adult fans. However, how I envisioned it and how it's being executed is not exactly how it's going down. I believed that catering to the adult fans meant giving them the same type of Bratz energy, the funky, fun, fashion-forward lines, a really strong Bratz series of media content, and the same tween teen formula vibe that they gave us in 2K, what I grew up with. I was looking for the Bratz to be the same brand I have loved for years. What I've come to learn is that brands do change, especially because times change. Ultimately, this new direction, unfortunately, just makes me feel old and more nostalgic for the old stuff that made me feel young. Personally, I hate a lot of reboots for that reason. They just make me feel old. I also hate when companies try to make a product more grown up by taking away anything that made the brand lighthearted and fun, as if being an adult means being grittier, darker, grimier, and more risque. Maybe when I was in my early 20s that was considered adult. Now that I'm in my 30s, I have a more expanded view of adulthood. So I believe many adult fans were hoping to share their love of Bratz with their offspring, passing the brand down to their kids. Now, many adult fans aren't comfortable with that. And I don't think the brand is considering that at all. Maybe because the majority of the fans still don't have children, but eventually the fans will grow up and start to develop families, and that might be a concern. I felt the Bratz took enough calculated risks in the past without going overboard, which made them likable. They felt young, free, wild, but good-natured overall, as Carter Bryant intended them to be. Carter Bryant once told me that he enjoyed finding out what would get children excited about the Bratz. He wanted the fashions to be detailed, thought out, and mixed and matched within one product. He wanted them to go beyond the nostalgia regurgitation treatment, bringing it into the future. That's some forward thinking there. To be honest, how long can Bratz last if it's just going to appeal to millennials and Gen Z? What about Alpha? Sure, we can buy our kids the toys we love, but that doesn't mean it will have the same impact on them. It doesn't mean they will like them enough to ask for them. And what parent would buy a child a toy they don't show interest in? Dolls like Barbie and American Girl have lasted for generations because they transcend time and have been catering to many new generations. They have managed to adapt well. Bratz has the ability to do the same, but no one is willing to put in enough power behind the brand despite Bratz's strong, loyal fan base. You know, what does the brand give up when they start to cater to adults? For starters, the brand gives up play lines ultimately. The main thing most fans are asking for. This is not to say the Bratz won't be able to release a few like they were, able to with the 20 years anniversary dolls, but it won't be at the level it used to be. Investing in Bratz is probably already seen as a financial risk since the brand hasn't produced the same level of success they had in the past. But a company can't make a fortune off of adult collectors alone. That's for sure. They need the money to really push this brand forward. Though we've seen the first edition dolls on the Walmart and Target shelves, many of you may have also discovered you can't find it at every local Walmart and Target store, and certainly can't find the dolls in stores outside of the USA. Why? Because retailers who follow parents decide what is appropriate to sell to kids. I mentioned more about this in my video, What Happened to the Bratz. Carter Bryant mentioned that retailers control the biz, and moms control retail. Bratz struggled enough to be seen as a proper toy for kids in the past. With their current online reputation, it's even harder for the Bratz to be deemed appropriate enough to sit on toy aisles next to kids' toys. I don't think the average parent wants their kids exposed to all of what the Bratz has going on lately. It's probably the reason most of the dolls landing on the shelves are re-releases and why they aren't being replenished as quickly. The final issue that comes with catering to adults is the demand for high quality. Yes, I know we all think even kids deserve high quality, but kids don't demand it. With inflation and the doll industry on decline, many dolls are made cheaper now, with a lot less accessories and playsets. Kids don't typically mind. Adult fans tend to want their money's worth. This means the dolls will end up being more expensive. That won't appeal to moms buying toys for their children post-pan. That doesn't appeal to young college students, mostly Gen Z, who are on a budget. That doesn't appeal to someone working 2 jobs struggling to make ends meet, mostly Gen Z and millennials. Unless all the future dolls are old re-releases, the stuff that appeals to nostalgia, for any new dolls, the bar will be set very high. These demands can only be met if they continuously release collector's exclusives, possibly only online, which means very few play lines found in actual stores. And since the same old team from the 2000s is no longer with MGA Entertainment, we may have to settle with new designers and artists that may be incapable of meeting the demand for the Bratz dolls to look on par with 2K dolls. Many fans have been speaking out about their lack of support for this new adult direction, but instead of taking fan feedback and reevaluating the direction of Bratz, the social media team is being dismissive. Recently, they posted this. It's clear they will not listen to fans' constructive criticism until it's too late. Retroactive continuity, or Ret-Con for short, is a piece of new information that imposes a different interpretation on previously described events, typically used to facilitate a dramatic plot shift or account for an inconsistency. It's a revision of fictional work in which established diegetic facts in the plot of a fictional work are adjusted, ignored, or contradicted by a subsequently published work which breaks continuity with the former. Basically, it means changing the core of the characters or altering the story to the point it contradicts itself. A retelling is simply to tell a story again from a completely new angle. Bratz as a brand is guilty of both. One of the biggest weaknesses of the Bratz brand, and really most of MGAE's brands, is the universe building aspect. sister brands Rainbow High and Project MC Square have the strongest universes of MGA's product. Unfortunately, only one of the two is currently and consistently getting product releases. Bratz is one of the weakest when it comes to the universe. To be honest, there is no canon Bratz universe, though you can't tell fans of the Bratz TV series and Rock Angels this because that's the only thing they know of Bratz. There have been too many series, books, movies, video games, electronic games, dolls, toys, all with different stories, different moments, and conflicting messages, many of them designed and produced before the Bratz TV series even aired. Bratz is like the Marvel Universe. It got like this because the brand debuted early in 2K, before the universe building thing really got popular with fashion doll brands, and it scrambled to compete with dolls that were ahead of trend in this regard, like My Scene, which developed their universe online through webisodes, blogs, and movies way back in 2002. The Bratz couldn't catch up, so they ended up with a bunch of media that conflicted with each other while trying to land with producers and writers that would stick with fans. Now it's just all a mess. However, the universes can be united if those in charge of adding to the story recognize the Bratz's vast universe and sought to bring some form of unity to the stories. Some of you might ask why this is important for a brand like Bratz. At one time, this didn't matter, because fans liked Bratz for its ambiguity. In the past, the more ambiguous a doll, the more fun they could be. But this was when we were dealing with Generation X and older millennial doll collectors, as well as millennial children back in the early 2000s. Older generations didn't get engaged with doll products based on the media associated. Gem dolls tried that in the 1980s, but it never transcended beyond that decade. Kids were more mesmerized by the functions of the toys or the vast array of items toys came with after seeing them on toy shelves, in commercials, or in catalogs. The price to create these very detailed doll universes wasn't as high either, so dolls had very large mini worlds to play with, and that was very appealing. Somewhere in the 2000s, as tweens were losing interest, many toy companies lost money, causing doll lines to be reduced, and the novelty of just owning a doll with amazing accessories or interesting functions like hair color changes and talking dolls fizzled out. Companies found a way to gain the interest of tweens again by aligning their toys with engaging shows or online content, creating identities for the characters. Now, the newer generations can't even get into a doll brand unless there's some universe-building media attached to it, whether it's social media or other. Dolls have to have identity. We're dealing with younger millennials and Gen Z, and I've noticed that most of them only remember the more popular movies and shows that attempted to create some universes for the Bratz. In the 2000s, several different stories were pitched to see which ones would stick, and the Rock Angels movie and TV series stuck the most. As a result, those universes are currently influencing what kind of dolls are in demand right now, and what ultimately gets designed and released for the Bratz. That's mostly re-releases, whether it's some of the best of Bratz's lines or some of the mediocre, which I've always personally found Rock Angels as a line to be mediocre, considering the official doll releases even back in 2005 only came with one pair of shoes and poorly matched outfits in comparison to, say, Girls' Night Out or Sun-Kissed Summer. But, okay. As we all age and comb deeper through the Bratz catalog, many of us are discovering how much the Bratz universe clashed with itself. What is needed for Bratz is someone who understands all of the Bratz universes very well, and for that individual to take charge in masterfully linking them up one by one. Unfortunately, though, lately those being put in charge of driving the story of Bratz were handpicked just based on social media finesse. None were added based on long-term investment in the brand, financial, time, energy, or otherwise, nor on the level of knowledge about the product. Without someone who has a strong understanding of this brand, you're going to find those in charge clashing with the larger fandom all the time, which has been happening. And worse, you'll end up with the situation of having Bratz community leaders adding more confusion to the Bratz story, which frustrates Bratz fans of all lifespans. Lately, the main one who has been in charge of creating the modern day story of Bratz is the social media content creator Mara the Cantos. I don't know much about Mara the Cantos' background, but I've read in the article mentioned earlier a brief cultural history of Bratz, a bit about her past before the Bratz, and how she became an influential Bratz community leader. From what I read, it appears that Martha Cantos was quite young when the Bratz debuted, and honestly didn't seem to really have much passion for the brand until her photos went viral a few years back. In the article, I found it a bit intriguing that Mar stated, as a child in Ecuador, she was too young to truly appreciate the Bratz dolls' passion for fashion through the plastic encasement. She only saw their diversity. However, it's that very lack of understanding of the brand in the past that creates a disconnect from longtime fans today. Bratz is and has always been about the fashion, even more than the diversity. That is very key, hence their slogan. The diversity is a plus. Their passion for fashion is the basics of this brand. It became apparent from this statement, along with an alright score of 15 out of 20 from the Bratz 20 questions quiz posted on Instagram's IGTV, that Mar the Cantos is quite a newcomer to the deeper fandom. I sound so elitist. Forgive me. I'm not trying to say that she and others like her can't sit at the table because of it. However, it is what many hardcore fans pay attention to when watching those in charge of the development. In fact, most of the questions she got wrong were from the TV series, and many fans consider that to be surface level knowledge of Bratz. Many Bratz fans like when the brand pays homage to the TV series, but if you don't know much about it, fans will correct you quickly. During the 20 questions quiz, Martha Cantos admitted that she hasn't watched the series in years.
I don't know, I haven't watched the series in years, guys.
And that leaves many fans wondering why she wasn't made to catch up with the series before being hired to post. Unfortunately, so many posts have been made in between that have really deviated from the infamous TV series, along with the posts deviating from certain commercials, Bratz songs, books, among other media too. I hate to bring up the 20 questions quiz, especially because I can't say I know every single thing about the Bratz myself. Like, sure, I answered all of the 20 questions quiz questions that they gave to Mara and Looking Bratz, right? And I created my own Ultimate Bratz quiz. But even I am still learning about this brand, especially because it is an inconsistent brand with too much media content. I can't pretend that I would be doing a better job if I were in the social media seat, because it's very difficult to appease all these fans. And some fans might like all the changes. It's just, for me, I'm old school and I'm an old timer, and I'm sure other fans feel the same. We don't want to see things change. I don't want to act like newcomers aren't welcome and can't drive the brand in whatever new directions are possible. I'm not the gatekeeper or the one who can tell anyone who gets to be a Bratz influencer. It shouldn't be that serious. But in truth, would many old-time fans continue to respect a newcomer who appears to have had vague memories of the brand growing up and doesn't seem to have really gone deeply through the brand throughout the years, even to watch every episode of the basic TV series? Would many old-time fans continue to respect this person as a developer or elite creator? Fans are really passionate about this product, and they do expect a high level of knowledge from those working with these dolls in their media, at least on par with their memories of the brand. Their memories of the brand are what's driving its popularity right now. If fans are spending money, that's what they almost require. My level of knowledge goes beyond the series, so for me, much is forgivable. Like, what form of media hasn't conflicted with one another? The Bratz universe. I'm there mostly for the dolls and have basically given up on caring too much about the media. However, for other fans, the media is all the Bratz is to them. This is why the blind date post was considered such an outrage. Everybody knows Dylan has constantly stated, not a Sagittarius. Yet we have social media posting him as a Sagittarius. Nowadays, the social media posts have been twisting the story more and more, and this is largely because the Bratz universe isn't being considered or isn't being analyzed closely. Personally, there have been a few posts that have bothered me more than the blind date one. I want to talk about the erasure of Kiana's indigenous heritage. I dislike when companies and creators take a character that appears to be another race, ethnic group, culture, and color and blacken them to add more diversity without thinking about the deeper nuances that go into creating an authentic black character, as if our experiences are easily written into another body. It's worse when you take representation from one group just to pretend like you had all this representation for another group. Now, it was very obvious to any hardcore Bratz fan, that Kiana was coded Indigenous, First Nations, Native American. Whichever is the more appropriate term. Let me know in the comment section if any of you guys are of that ethnic group. Please let me know and I will adjust accordingly. But on eBay or WorthPoint, whenever anyone tried to sell her off, she was listed as Native American, which means this is how she impacted people. Her connections with the West for being in the Wild Wild West collection, her pseudo buckskin dress and hints of turquoise, which shows a strong connection to the Southwest Native American tribes, were all indicators of indigenous heritage. Sure, you can call them all stereotypes, but so are Kumi's and Tiana's traditional Japanese kimonos. There are certain obvious cultural factors that are connected with a certain group of people. But of course, I realized that some people don't seem to remember that indigenous people exist. I did see a video online of someone saying that they thought indigenous people were in fairy tales. Yeah. So some of these people associate anyone with a darker skin tone with being black, and that's just not always the case. This representation was very important and still is. Can you list any indigenous characters designed for a doll brand? You can probably count them with one hand, possibly with only a few fingers. Bratz was revolutionary for actually introducing a modern teen indigenous coded character. Unfortunately, lately, social media has been interpreting her as black. Granted, Kiana being indigenous doesn't mean she can't also be black. Kiana can be mixed. Yet, I don't remember one single post of Kiana during Indigenous Peoples Day. Not last year or this year. Ever since the G. Floyd tragedy last year, MGA has been over trying to pretend like they've had all of these black characters they've developed. Don't get me wrong, they've had more than other doll brands, but most of them were developed after the 2000s because of the obvious lack of them. In the 2000s, there was Sasha, Felicia, Dylan, Zeta, and Devin, who were obviously black. Never was obviously meant to be Turkish, due to that name being considered more popular in Turkey at the time of Never's release, but we can pass her as Afro-Turkish. You know. In the 2010s, Lydia, Myra, and Bridget were introduced, adding a little more to the Afro-American mix. So we don't need to pretend dolls of other heritages are black. How many of the new 2010 dolls were definitely considered First Nations or Indigenous? None. This kind of promotion of Kiana, this recent promotion of her, is actually a major annoyance of mine. Secondly, I'm still not fond of the Roxy and Never pairing. I am queer, but that doesn't mean I have to accept every bit of representation I get. I'm looking for proper representation. And after doing deeper research into the brand, I'm even less fond of the pairing. Being black, I know all too well how things can go haywire when you aren't represented properly as a minority. Like back when black people were first getting representation in the 1930s and 1940s, we were just happy to see our faces. But eventually we began to see how the negative representation or the poor representation began to affect how we were seen. So, and I say this as we're starting to get queer representation, we also have to vet what is appropriate representation with that as well. So first off, I felt the timing of the coming out story was bad because it was amidst controversy over Amina Mucciolo, a queer black creative who wanted royalties after she felt her likeness was copied by MGA Entertainment. Shortly after, some comments were made by Isaac Larian, the CEO, that didn't go over very well. I believe he was just trying to protect his company and his workers, who are mostly people of color, but it backfired. I really felt like that should have been settled first before the announcement, because it left me feeling all kinds of mixed emotions, like they were covering something up. Ultimately, when I think of the two of them, I think of the incident. It ain't cute. Second, I feel like Roxy was bi erased. On YouTube, my sibling Venus Love, as well as Jessie Gender and Verily BITC She really go into talking about this. My sibling is very passionate about this topic, and they got me thinking more about this too. So that my sibling is bi, I'm pan, but it applies across the board for those who are more fluid in your interest. But bi erasure has become a problem in media lately, where a character shows obvious attraction to both girls and boys, but is written off as lesbian or gay or straight to appease monosexuals. Mostly, I feel like Roxy was stereotyped as being lesbian because she's a rock star. But when you really get into her past, she has shown a heavy attraction to boys. This is a part of the Ret-Con problem too. The Treasures commercial has her flirting with some random boy on a party island. In the Bratz TV series episode, New Kid in Town, she was flirting with Cameron the whole episode.
I so can't believe Cameron's flirting with Roxy right in front of me.
And even had lunch with him at the end of the episode. She dated Shane along with all the other Bratz Pack members in the same episode. She asked Dylan out in the Misfortune episode of the Bratz TV series.
You want to go out tonight?
Even though maybe that was just a part of the episode's amulet curse, but I've noticed that the characters affected by the curse still had agency throughout the episode, despite the magic of the amulet. Roxy has a whole song, I Don't Care, from the Rock Angels album about some other love interest that was more than a crush, and this song was not describing Never because her friends think this person is weird and their hair is a mess. That's definitely not Never. This person from the song isn't even one of Roxy's friends apparently either. Largely, I don't think any of this was considered. Again, Mar has admitted she hasn't watched the series in years. It's possible she hasn't really listened to full albums or read any of the album booklets they used to come with either. Sure, we can have conversations about comp head and heteronormativity, though I personally think if used inappropriately, the terms can come off panphobic and biphobic. Myself, that's what it's put. But regardless, when taking that energy to characters in media, we have to consider it in context. How the visual media outlines the character's personal experiences and how that impacts others' views of the characters in relation to others and themselves. The visual media has to be detailed enough to explain Roxy's newfound lesbianism and how she went from A to B. Yet it just feels like all the events that happened in the Bratz TV series are being treated as if they never happened. Further, I don't understand why companies, or rather influencers, feel they have to change the complete development of a character just to make them queer in the first place. It's like they don't think being pan or bi is queer enough, which is a part of biphobia, honestly. It's also ridiculous that the many developers believe two bi individuals can't be in the same relationship, that one of them has to be lesbian in order for a relationship to be stable. I see it happen all the time, and it's honestly annoying. There are a plethora of Bratz characters who have shown more interest in the same gender and don't even have a heterosexual past at all. Wouldn't it have been more advantageous to tap into those characters for a queer story arc? I would prefer a character that hasn't shown attraction to boys at all to come out as lesbian than someone who has been actively seeking attention from the opposite gender only to come out without context. Roxy's sister Phoebe is probably more likely lesbian than she is, but because she's not a walking stereotype, no one tapped into that. I think Phoebe may have only flirted with a guy once, but you know. As a result, the announcement came off as either an obvious lack of understanding of the brand, queerbait, pandering, and or bi-pan erasure for the sake of superficial diversity. Anything that would make the Bratz go viral, because anything queer is guaranteed to garner thousands of likes on social media nowadays. When handling visual media, the imagery impacts people and the way others are seen, and this kind of writing off of her past relationships makes it all feel like it was just a phase, which mirrors the way people see bisexual and pansexuals in relationships. This actually damages the way sexually fluid people are treated in society, both in heterosexual and queer spaces. It contributes to biphobia, even if the character has never been designed to be bi. And it's very disappointing to see. When this relationship was even announced, people were wondering, when did this happen? It was so random, like so much development, so much nuance that no one could even understand what these two even had in common to even bring them into close proximity. They've never appeared on a line together, never in a show together, and never mentioned Roxy only briefly in a book. And now we're supposed to believe they're lovers? I've never been a fan of love at first sight narratives, and being queer doesn't redeem that narrative. Okay. Anytime I call out the poor development of queer couples coming out of companies, I'm shut down by other LGBTQ members who will accept anything as long as they're represented. Like, I mean, you can accept what you want, but I mean, I'm just out here like, does anyone care about how we're represented? Like, it's not self-hating or homophobic to set your standards for how you want to be represented in media. If anyone had been doing their homework really deep into the brand, they would have realized that Nebra's real romantic lover should have been Megan. Nebra has only appeared in 6 main lines in the past, but in 3 of them, including Secret Date, Megan has appeared. They partied in Wildlife Safari together, kicked butt in Dynamite, and they even kind of flirted in Star and Style while getting ready to take prom pictures together. I saw that. Nebra has appeared in more books with Megan than with Roxy. Further, Megan has often been seen flirting with the girls while all of her friends were with the boys, like in Lil Bratz Spring Break Blitz commercial. Now, my ship has sailed with Nebra and Megan. All of you who follow me on Instagram already know, so don't come over here with that Roxy and Nebra bullshit. Maybe I'm in my feelings because they've always been my preference since 2004. I'm probably just biased, but I was hoping for them to be acknowledged as the first queer couple. Instead of looking into the brand at characters who actually have had development and chemistry before announcing Bratz's first queer couple, they just threw 2 dolls together and said, "Happy Pride, Mom." I'll tell you why Roxy and Nebra were chosen for real. They were probably 2 of the only dolls that those on the social media team had in their collection. Someone designed some pride outfits for them. They got attention on social media, and voila, official couple was born. They gave Bratz attention. That's the only reason they were being recognized as official. In truth, they were not planned at all. It's obvious they weren't, and that's pretty much summing up how Bratz is being developed nowadays. Everything is just being pushed together without any conversation, development, or deep dives into the brand. This is why no official dolls have been released with the 2 of them. Because things are just randomly being shoved together, not being developed. I've seen some companies really plan a queer couple with deep research, nuance, interesting descriptions, and all. American Girl has done it the best for me with Keira Bailey's aunts. I think the only downside is that there are no official dolls of them either. But I feel like they were one of the best developed characters. Like, we could make the argument we can make the argument that maybe Roxy is lesbian in the reboot. But if this was such a reboot or reimagining, why have they recently re-released the Bratz TV series for streaming on Chameleon? The same series where her attraction to boys plays out. If they really wanted to transform Roxy's character, why are they still promoting the old show? Like, why are you still going back to the old stuff? They're also promoting Rock Angels, knowing good and well she has a whole song on the Rock Angels album dedicated to somebody she fell in love with that's not Nebra. She sure was not talking about Nebra in that song, because none of Roxy's friends have ever mentioned that Nebra is weird and that her hair is a mess. One of Nebra's assets is her hair. No. The biggest issue here, when we all put it together, is that the brand is giving us superficial forms of diversity, a bunch of woke cliches that don't go deeper than that, all while ignoring the real thing that fans want: nostalgia. Like, I'm not a fan of Chloe and Cameron at all, but at least more development was put into that than what came out of Nebra and Roxy. Now, lately, it appears social media is scrambling to come up with stories for them. But even as they do that, none of their real personalities seem to be shining throughout at all. Nebra is hella bossy, and Roxy is a free spirit. These opposites should be clashing. Where is the development? Even the app game failed to capture their spirits. I don't tend to bond well with canon couples that haven't been developed well. Watching Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura growing up gave me high standards for what a queer couple should look like. My ideals are Seiya Usagi, lead Starlight and Sailor Moon, Haruka and Michiru, Sailor Uranus and Neptune, and Yue Yukato and Toya. Don't play with me, okay? I need something more, okay? I like more than that. So, but I mean, it's no secret I've never been a fan of any of the Bratz official couples. In my Bratz 2018 Please Don't video and accompanying article, I requested that they get rid of the official couples. However, instead, they seem to be adding more, which annoys me. Once the official couples started rolling in, that ruined lines like Secret Date. It did. It made lines like that impossible to recreate. The mix and match potential, so uncommon in other doll lines, was gone. It ruined the fun. It really did. I also absolutely hate Cameron and Chloe. I mentioned one reason why in ranking worst best Bratz movies. If you've watched that, you know the first reason is because I feel like Cameron was always more into Chloe than she was him. She had way too many crushes throughout the series, the books, and the online blogs, and everywhere else. I felt Cameron should have moved on. We should have moved on. Second, and this is the second reason, and I've never mentioned this, but I had to really think about it. It's a personal bias of mine, but back in 2002 when the first Bratz Boys commercial aired, I was very much impacted by Cameron attempting and failing to kiss Sasha. Now, back in the day, the Bratz commercials told a story all their own. This visual imagery impacted me. Back in the 2000s, you just didn't see many interracial couples in media, and you certainly didn't see it shown visually among doll brands. It was a bold statement. Whenever Barbie had a boyfriend, he was white. Her black best friend, Christy, had a black boyfriend. It had never occurred to me that many different races of people could be attracted to black women. Studies have shown that the world considers black women to be the least desirable, and I internalized that as a child. When I saw Cameron flirting with Sasha back then, I knew this was not going to be a brand like Barbie. And then Chloe and Cameron happened, and Cameron got Ken dolled. I was hoping that maybe some social media experts and new Bratz team members would bring Chloe and Cameron back to their independent days when they were both single, flirty, and ready to mingle. However, as I've deeply come to realize, those working with Bratz now don't know the brand well enough to bring it to a point they don't remember. With no consistency in sight, the story is getting so convoluted, it's giving me whiplash. It really stops me from looking forward to the future of the brand, especially as far as media goes. Ever since the release of the Hayden Williams 2018 dolls, there has been a big fan divide. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it appears that some of the old timers that used to frequent the Bratz social media platforms and the ones that used to be heavy promoters of the Bratz brand have gone ghost. And it seems to have started with a little back and forth in the Bratz world community back in 2018, and eventually it spilled over onto Instagram. The old time fans didn't feel that Hayden Williams dolls were good enough. They didn't like the outfits nor the facial screening. And when they gave their criticism, some of them weren't too polite about it. And Hayden Williams wasn't too polite back. Well, it ended up causing a huge rift in the community. And unfortunately, a lot of those old timers had a lot of influence over the Bratz community. And so it seems like those old timers have boycotted all of any Hayden Williams dolls and any future products coming out of Bratz at this time. So maybe this is just a feeling I have, but it appears that way because I haven't seen a few certain Bratz fans around in a while. And another thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was during the Bratz's 20th anniversary week countdown back in May. Social media was not hesitant to post some snark towards the 2015 era. Now, from what I know, some of the older hardcore Bratz fans had a hand in the 2015 era. So, and there are actually some fans who like the 2015 era. There's some Bratz fans that like the 2015 era. They like the 2010 era, believe it or not. So I feel like this wasn't good, because this is what we really have to start thinking about. And even I feel I haven't done enough to keep the Bratz fan base together, and I have regrets for participating in the divide myself in many ways. But when I'm really thinking about it, the fandom divide is actually hurting this brand, because division, you ever heard of the saying divide and conquer? Division allows other brands to conquer. It lowers the amount of money that can go into a brand too. It lessens the amount of support. So it's probably why Bratz is staying at 700k followers on Instagram instead of climbing into the millions, which I believe is the brand's highest potential. And so I feel like there needs to be some sort of integration, some sort of unity. You know, Bratz, maybe there's a way to unify the eras. Instead of shading or acting like the old eras didn't exist or downplaying what happened in the past, I think that Bratz needs to bring the best of the weakest eras back and update it to fit with their best era. For example, instead of acting like Rhea, Lydia, or the other newer dolls didn't exist from 2015 to 2010, they need to re-release them with the 2000 style face molds in updated fashion. And then they also need to fix what was the weakest part of their best era, such as their Ret-Con universe, and kind of integrate it with everything, instead of downplaying the 2015 era altogether, the 2010 era. There were some good ideas that came out of those eras, even if they weren't all everybody's favorite. There was some good ideas coming out of it. Even I had to admit there were some pros of the 2015 era, even though it was not my favorite era. There were some pros, and I don't think there should be especially on the professional level, and I think this is why a lot of people say social media is not professional. I won't go as far as to say that, but it feels like they're not considering the fact that there were some people who were fans of those Bratz dolls, and they're just ignoring all of that. We need to somehow integrate and bring all the fans on the same page, because while Bratz is gaining many new fans right now, they're losing their old fans. They're not maintaining a strong fan base, and that will weaken the sales of Bratz. It will, and that's just the bottom line. I've been wrestling with back and forth feelings about whether I should continue to support this brand or even the company anymore. I still absolutely love the dolls coming out of MGA Entertainment, and I feel the visions are so next gen. I'm Gen Next, as y'all know. I like to find what's advancing into the future. MGA Entertainment has always been filled with visionaries. It's also always been a company that's inclusive and has always hired more diverse groups of people than any other company, long before their competitors saw the advantage of that. However, there are some things that have been weighing on me. I don't have all the knowledge about what's happening behind the scenes, but I have fingers, keypad, and internet. You know, I've been seeing and hearing some things that have made me feel uncomfortable, if that's the proper word. And until it's settled, I don't really know if I feel right investing my all into MGA's products. The first incident with Amina Mucciolo, and I apologize if that's not how you pronounce her name. I'm trying my best. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But that incident with her last year jarred me a little. Just to give you all a little history on that again, you know, that influencer named Amina who claimed that MGA Entertainment appropriated her likeness without her permission. Yeah, that kind of jarred me. However, I was able to see both sides of the coin, even if it wasn't popular to do so back then. Still, I was caught between understanding Amina, someone that I really could see myself in, and understanding a businessman like Isaac Larian, who was protecting his business and his employees. After all, a black woman worked on the doll that was being called into question. But then other things came to mind and came out. So I ran into a Satchi art page created by Carter Bryant, and this is what I read. Hi, I'm Carter Bryant. I'm the creator of Bratz and co-creator of Pinky Cooper and the Jet Set Pets and Sugar Planet. I continue to invent toy concepts, but I am now also adding painting and writing and illustrating children's books to my resume. I currently only have 2 works up, but I have several paintings in the works. Much of my work was taken hostage from me during the Mattel MGA court battle years ago, and I still have not been able to retrieve it. So much of my back catalog is unavailable for me to share. No mind though, I have thousands of drawings that I will begin sharing soon. I'm currently super busy with a couple very intense concepts, but once I wrap them up, I will start to post more of my work. As far as painting goes, I'm exercising a lot of demons from the past 16 years or so, but probably better said as most of my nearly 50 years here. I've experienced and been a witness and a subject to many things that most people would not want to experience or be witness to. But my work isn't relegated to the past. My work in progress speaks to a social, political climate that reverberates with me daily. A person of a very brittle religious upbringing, my coming out as a gay man has been fraught with tension and loss. I look back in my current work with much sorrow. I'm afraid my journey into painting is not terribly optimistic. I'm also working to explore issues that confound and confuse me, but also things that I am not above or a part of. Guns, my partner loves them, go figure. Religion, sexuality, social isolation, PTSD, culture shock, addiction, abuses of power, to name a few. As an observer of American culture, mostly I have succeeded in the past to bring to light the fact that ours is a completely fascinating, beautiful, diverse, wild, hopeful land littered with so much tragedy and pain. The characters I create in my toys are almost always full of joy and optimism, and through them I get to escape into a world of pure bliss. The characters in my paintings, however, feel my need to express my deepest thoughts about things that I can't always verbalize in any sort of eloquent way otherwise. I look forward to getting to show you what I mean. Carter Bryant also left some comments on my blog back in 2015, about 6 years ago. I don't know if any of these things have been resolved, and I even doubt they have. Carter stated he would not work with MGA again, and it had nothing to do with the lawsuits, but simply the way he was treated over the years by the leader of that company. In regards to royalties, he also confirmed that he wasn't getting paid anything for the Bratz, though they were his babies. Personally, it doesn't seem like the company wanted to put in any more fight for Carter Bryant to maintain some ownership of the brand or to even get paid any royalties. They didn't have his back. And really, this is a reminder of how not just companies, but our justice system treats minorities like Amina and Carter Bryant, who are black and queer. We don't have the money, connections, or legal knowledge, and so often get taken advantage of in this system, even sometimes by our own. And Carter Bryant's comments mirror the same reviews left about the company on career websites like Indeed and Glassdoor. I found it interesting how he stated he was reviewing abuses of power. I want to share with you all some that I found. And some of you guys might be wondering why I was even there. I do, when I'm looking for jobs, I've been looking at MG Entertainment and Ironing for a few years now. But I've been reading some of these reviews. One on Indeed, one designer left a review titled "Roller Coaster Ride Not for the Faint of Heart," and they stated that the leader, they agree with several reviews about what people have been saying about the leader, and they have more to add. And this is what they stated. They said the leader was too involved in day-to-day activities. Passionate equals good. Angry berating equals bad. Unethical, dishonest, shady. Long-term vision and direction was non-existent. Created an environment of stress and insecurity, leading to distrust and infighting, competition between employees to try to survive. And they did leave some pros. They said brainstorming, talented employees, the bagels, and flexible hours. The cons: endless rounds of layoffs, vendors left unpaid, and stressful and insecure often. Then there's another one titled "The Most Miserably Toxic Workplace in the Business." Pros: the pay is decent so they can draw you in. Isaac, owner and CEO, is probably a genius and seems to be finally working on himself. working on himself. That's what they said. Cons. This is the most toxic organization I have ever worked for. The entire place is fueled by fear and stuffing more money into a billionaire's pockets. All of those toy awards they collect, they make every employee vote for MGA toys. If you haven't voted, they will sign into your email account to vote in your name. Assistants have spent entire weekends doing this. That's interesting. And they said also in the same post, every positive review you may have seen here is entirely forced. They make people write positive reviews to balance the authentic reviews because they know they haven't earned them on their own merits. Backstabbing, lying, throwing coworkers under the bus, all of it is not just tolerated, but encouraged. Screaming at teams is a-okay with them too. So, it's the next one. I ran into another one titled, Do Not Work Here, Run! So they stated, this company offers zero flexibility. You want to work from home? Forget it. This type of work is not allowed, period. The CEO lacks the humility or foresight to allow his employees to work anywhere but in the office. If you aren't at work, then you're stealing from him. You want to see inside the psyche of the CEO? Follow him on LinkedIn. The positive reviews posted on Glassdoor are fake. The CEO demands that employees log on to Glassdoor and instructs them to leave positive reviews in order to increase his and the overall company rating. If you don't follow orders, you get fired. Do not believe any of the positive ratings. Educate yourself before you ever think about taking a role at MGA. Ask former employees and they will provide you the honest information about the culture. Another one that I saw was entitled SHIT hole. Okay. Cons. Everything. That's what they said. And another one that I saw was titled MGA is a mixed bag. They stated the best thing about being a creative at MGA. This was more of a nuanced and balanced review, so I'll read this one. But they said the best thing about being a creative at MGA is the lack of excessive layers of management interfering with design. They said if your manager likes your ideas, you can easily realize your vision with some exceptions. Management knows how to sell products in a challenging market filled with stiff competition. MGA stuffs the channel every year with more products and new brand launches. Cons, they stated, was leadership. Isaac Larian is a whip-smart business leader, but he is not a kind man. He is impatient, out of touch, and conflates intense pressure with good leadership. And I had heard I don't know if he's out of touch, but I did hear he voted for Trump in 2016, if I remember that on Twitter correctly, but I'm not sure. But, I mean, a lot of people did that. Everybody has their own political affiliations, but maybe some people feel that maybe that's why he's out of touch. Among other things. And then they said another con is the organization. MGA tries to be organized every couple of years. They introduce some new system or process. Ultimately, however, no training or reinforcement ever accompanies these directives, and they fail or litter our workflow with unused or misunderstood technology and steps that only serve as pitfalls to efficiency. Hong Kong counterparts are overworked, and designers have little support or guidance unless their manager knows how to do what they need. Some divisions lack project managers who help everyone keep to schedules set by planning. Instead, they rely too heavily on their designers to track everything themselves. In general, many items and details get missed, making for an extremely sloppy process that is burdened by constant last-minute fixes and running changes. Inexperienced designers have to learn quickly how to project manage several items quickly or fail utterly. And maybe that's why we're seeing this big problem with these dolls. I don't know. It seems kind of related. And then they said the biggest reason not to work at MGA, they said some companies in the toy industry will not hire you straight out of MGA over fears of lawsuits. Working at MGA, despite its amazing success, is something of a scarlet letter for other HRs. They said, last, please fix MGA relations with the larger toy industry. Traditionally, the toy industry has always been fairly incestuous with great talent, leaving one to go to another and then back again. Many HR managers and headhunters won't touch MGA over the history and rampant threat of litigation from MGA. They stated, stop using litigation as competitive strategy. It hurts employees' chances to work anywhere else. Another title was titled, You Have Been Warned. They said that this is what they said. Isaac Larian is an evil man. He's a tyrant who lies consistently to his employees. He's destroyed and continues to destroy many people's lives. The company is very unprofessional and supports this tyranny. It's shocking that people like this exist. He has an inspiring story, but just uses it to destroy more. The company is a reflection of the poison in this world, and his henchmen support his lies and illegal behavior for a small paycheck. Finally, and this was the real spill here, this one was titled A Culture of Fear. They stated Isaac Larian is a corporate bully who finally broke on social media and showed his true colors outside of the MGA walls. They said search MGA CEO hashtag BLM, Black Lives Matter, if you're not familiar. And I think they're referring to that Amina Mucciolo situation. They said the final piece of the culture to be aware of is nepotism. Nepotism means, you're keeping the company within the family or passing stuff on to the family, businesses to the family. So they said during your time, you're sure to have exposure to the CEO's kids. Now, this is not to say there weren't any positive reviews. There was one that stated MGA is fast-paced, nimble, and a great place to grow. Even if they did say resources are stretched, but that means you can learn and do a lot if you have the ambition to do it. And then one employee stated it was a great company to work for. It's cutting edge creativity and had amazing people. They said it was very fast paced, which could be a con to some, but they never learned so quickly anywhere else. So this was some positive reviews, but even with the positive reviews, there's an overwhelming amount of negative reviews, tipping the scales, giving MGA a rating of 2.7 out of 5 stars on Glassdoor. MGA's most positive traits were being cutting edge and having a diverse work environment. But they had an overwhelming amount of cons. And, at first I thought maybe this was just the nature of the creative business, especially the toy industry where it is high pressure. Isaac Larian started from nothing in comparison to other toy companies. And it's normal for people who are let go from a company to be bitter. You would think it would all make sense, right? But then I compared it to Mattel's Glassdoor, and their rating was 3.8 out of 5 stars. That's a little closer to 4 out of 5 stars. Mattel's weaknesses were a lack of diversity, very little innovative thinking, some bad management practices, particularly from HR and other management besides the CEO, such as workers being belittled in front of others or a lack of clear communication. And then some said there was no growth path and that the leaders were boneheads who don't really know what's going on. However, despite the bad points, no one was literally pushing for the CEO to step down. No one stated they were shady. No one stated they felt ideas were stolen, and no one has lost their ideas to the company. More importantly, they had more good reviews than bad. I also looked at Walt Disney Company, a company many people have said is shady, and even their rating was a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Both Mattel and Disney had a 70% satisfaction rate with their CEOs. Isaac Larian was at 45%, which is a little less than half. Hasbro has 3.7 out of 5 stars, with the CEO satisfaction rate being 89%. So MGA, and then here's another problem. MGA had several people stating they were forced to make good reviews. So we don't know what's real and what's not. Even as it stands, we don't even know if the positive reviews count. So it's like, what is the point of having all of this diversity when you allegedly don't treat the diverse individuals under your company well? Like, even if none of these reviews are true, it definitely makes the company look bad. And I swear, like, they're describing Isaac Larian as the less evolved son of Aries. I know he's a son of Aries, but he's getting that vibe. If y'all haven't read my article about your sun sign, when you get a chance, look that up. All of us have less evolved sides when it comes to astrology, but that's what seems to be coming out here. But the point is, with these kind of reviews, what kind of skilled professional team can this company build for the Bratz brand? Like, if we are questioning why there are issues with quality control regarding the dolls, look no further than this. Like, probably everybody working on this line of dolls is new to the brand and feel the pressure to rush and create for the brand with little to no training or experience, because all the experienced individuals are gone, and they can't. And then the people who are experienced, they're like, oh, I don't want to work for this company, like, because these reviews are so bad, and they're just like scared off, or they literally left. So, and like, I hate to even post all this negativity because I worry about the workers still around losing their job if this goes viral, gets any traction. But I feel very caught and guilty either way. Like, I feel like I should mention this, and that's why I'm doing it, but I don't know the consequences of this. Like, this company has really given minority groups opportunities, and I don't want to see that taken away from them. Like I said in videos prior, like, I support the designers, the developers, the producers, the creative teams who, work to make the brands of the company possible. Because there's not just one genius behind the Bratz brand. But that's also a point. It's not fair that so many people have lost creative rights or have felt belittled despite their contributions. And this really isn't just a problem of companies, but again, of our justice system too. So, and as I've stated time and time again, I don't get paid by MG Entertainment to promote the Bratz. When I promoted Bratz back in 2010, 2015, and 2018, it was because I wanted to. It was because I loved the concept of the Bratz. It was the most innovative doll brand I've ever encountered. The brand itself taught me so much about the toy industry and business in general. I have a certain attachment and fondness for the brand, having been a loyal supporter for 21 years since the Bratz were being developed. I've typed up statements on how to make the brand better and sent it by mail to MG Entertainment. I've been involved in Bratz communities, poured as much money as I could, supporting releases and media, and I've always spoken fondly about all the products coming out of this company. So for me, it's tough and heartbreaking to see Bratz go down like this, and to see the company go down like this. And a part of me wants to keep fighting for this brand, but a part of me just doesn't know if I should keep supporting it. Like, where do I see Bratz in the future? So many things can go into the success of a product, and when those things are neglected, I just don't see a strong future unless these issues are rectified. So, overall, this is how I feel about the Bratz 20 years anniversary. If I'd launched the 20 years anniversary, this is what I would have done. I would have focused on a general demographic, not the adult demographic. I would have created like a standard play line formula, like re-released old lines with new fashions as second or third waves, like they attempted in 2010, but with better quality and high fashion, and then I would have paid homage to the old while pushing it into the future. And if I had re-released old replicas, like replicas of whole lines, I would have come up with something extra special to add to the release. Adult collectors would only be utilized for like formerly unreleased lines and characters. So that's what I would do with the adult collectors, like those fashion pixies that were supposed to come out. And I would have created brand new lines for 2021. Period. I would have spearheaded a fresh new series, paying homage to the old one, but uniting the universes. And I would aim to re-release and reproduce all the characters and line concepts from 2010, 2015, and give them a brand new makeover. Like, I would ensure all the social media platforms were consistent and that the website was updated, and maybe pay homage to the old websites. And I would have released the characters from the relationship bondage, like at free for all. Y'all can ship whoever you want to ship. Finally, I would have settled all legal squabbles and pay royalties, because that has to be settled. We have to settle that. We have to try to make good with all the old team members, try to get them back together, create some sort of reunion, because we need them to come on board as consultants again, because these new people, they don't really know what to do. So anyway, I hate to sound so negative. I'm sorry. I have been feeling some kind of way for a long time, so it's just spilling out. I still love the Bratz. I respect everybody who put their blood, sweat, and tears into this. However, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm still going to finish my fandom page. I'm still going to, support Looking Bratz. I still support the website, but, I'm just going to be honest. Like I said, I still see potential in the brand, but if they don't turn it around soon, they're going to lose their most loyal following and the brand will crash. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Do you think the Bratz is better than it's ever been, or do you think the Bratz are tumbling downhill? Let's discuss. Ciao. Peace.